Welcome back to Women's Wealth, The Middle Way, the show that answers your questions about work, money, and family. My name is Susan McGlory Michael, and I am the CEO and founder of Glen, a wealth management firm in New Jersey.
My name's Carol Ann Fernandez, and I'm the COO of Glen, and I'm very excited to be joined today by Audra Carrion, founder of the Carrion community and host of the Carrion Fire Family podcast. Audra advocates for first responder families and helps women navigate the mental load of balancing career, community work, and raising 4 children. Sounds like a lot. Welcome.
It is a lot. Thank you for having me.
Maybe you can just start by sharing with our listeners a little bit about your background and what even led you to start the Carrion community.
I am married to a firefighter. I've been married to him now for 23 years. I work for a startup, and I've lived in the same community for the last 43 years. So I'm obviously very familiar with the area. Yes. I was born and raised in the city that I live in now. I moved away briefly. When my husband and I got married, we actually moved back, and I kind of have dug my roots in here. We were lucky enough to send our children to the same schools that I went to. So I have deep roots in this community, and I've always been really passionate about building community. During COVID, I actually saw that small businesses were really struggling and didn't have a lot of support. And because we were so isolated, the easiest thing to do was create the Carrion community on Instagram at the time to really connect with and uplift and advocate for those.
I think community is such a big part, and having young kids myself, you realize how important it is, especially in that frame of life, but just in all aspects. And it's hard to even find nowadays. So that's great that you're advocating and helping so much with it. I am married to a doctor, so I know some of the challenges of the medical world, but maybe you can talk a little bit about what are the challenges that first responder families are facing that most people may not even be aware is happening.
Oh, there's so much. There's this idea of romanticizing a firefighter's job, and the public kind of creates this idea of them in their head. And it's so pretty and great, and they're the hero, but there's a lot behind the scenes that I think a lot of people don't know unless they're in it. There's constant uncertainty in California, especially. We have so many departments that are understaffed, inconsistent schedules, it's mandatory overtimes. It's really overwhelming for a lot of families, and it makes it hard for the spouse at home to juggle the career and the kids with the constant uncertainty of the job. And then on top of that, there's also missed holidays. There's their physical and mental health risks that we have to also pay attention to. And then the mental load that the spouses at home carry because our partner has such an enormous job and because of the trauma that comes home. It's just a balance that I think a lot of people don't see and don't understand.
And I think that's a good point, is like, how do you manage? Because obviously you have a lot of mental load that you're taking on with having family and obviously the uncertainty and all these things going on. How do you have then the ability to support others while also trying to manage your own mental load?
I mean, it's not the best sometimes, I'll say. I do my best. When I turned 40, I think it really changed just my perspective on life. And I've had to really adjust my boundaries and my priorities and really recognize the fact that nobody is perfect, and I don't need to come to the table with an empty cup. And my job is really to take care of myself first. I think a lot of women have been taught to just push through even when we're running on empty, and we wonder why we're all burning out at this alarming rate because we've been told for so long to keep going, push through. And I think it's just really detrimental to us, even men, just in 2026. It's this feeling of we've got to keep going. At some point, you've got to get off the hamster wheel and realize that you need to take care of yourself first. I'm much better at saying no to things that I don't value. I allow a lot more space to say yes to things that I want and that I need to fill up my cup. And I'm really a lot better at asking for help and communicating, especially with my partner, my husband, to help me. I'm not trying to do it all myself anymore. And I just really remind myself constantly that I don't have to carry it all alone to be supportive of
And
others.
I think that's such an important message that, especially women, but as you pointed out, if we aren't taking care of ourselves, we're not going to be much help taking care of others. And I think it's hard to remember that, especially nowadays when everything's about doing more and taking care of, taking on more. And sometimes that's not always the best idea. So
Totally.
I think that's a great message. I know you had talked a little bit when we were doing some research before you joining the podcast about using social media with intention. And I was just curious, like, what you meant by that and how you do that.
Yeah, I think social media can be so overwhelming for a lot of us, and we get caught in the doom scroll and we get caught in finding these very curated individuals that look great and make us feel some kind of way. But I think using it with intention for me is more about creating space for people to feel seen and heard rather than creating this image that people think they want. I'm a real one. I really want to focus on real conversations from other people, not just myself. I want to hear their real stories. I really want to show up in a way that helps them feel less alone. And I want to be myself. I want to be real with my audience. I really don't like saying follower because I really value the community and I don't want them to just be following me because I look cool. I really think there's so much more depth to social media than what the average person is looking for. So there's a lot of opportunity for people out there to really embrace social media with intention rather than just filling it with fluff every day.
And I know a lot of people struggle with social media too because there's a lot of, oh, I know I shouldn't be on it so much and how to how to cut it off. But I think that's a great point that if used with intention and getting the right message out, it can be so valuable and it's such a great tool. But I think trying to remember that it's a tool and not the way we should be letting our feelings be dictated by it. I just think that's so interesting that you focus on that and talk about it. I think it's so important nowadays.
It's really critical. And to be honest, like with the community pages, it's been so great because it's not just me talking to people, it's people joining the conversation and me really hearing what they have to say and getting their advice too. I think that is something that I love about the fire family community in particular is it's so helpful, especially to those new fire families when they're jumping in and they have no idea what to expect. Even me as a very seasoned firewife now, there's so many people with ideas and thoughts that want to be heard and want to share their message. And if I can be that funnel, I'm all for it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I guess that brings me to my last question. What advice would you give to maybe women, it may not be the fire community, but that are looking to build a community and just aren't really sure or feel overwhelmed with how to even start that in their own community?
Yeah, it can be very overwhelming. My advice would be to really get out of your comfort zone. It's very easy to stay back and watch everything and keep those ideas to yourself. But I really take that kind of YOLO mentality and just step into my power and do the things that I'm passionate about. And again, like the internet can really be a great place to find community, but I also want to focus on the human connection and I think that's where we're falling short, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I go make sure I meet an old friend for coffee or I invite somebody to an in-person community event. Find something that you really like and see if there's a group of people who share that interest and are maybe have a group somewhere that you can join. Or if they don't have that group, you start that group. You start finding those people that share those like interests with you and build your own community. I think it's really important to just get yourself out there. Doesn't need to be huge, doesn't need to be this big thing. It just needs to be consistent. You just need to say, here's what I'm going to do this week. This is going to make me feel better. This is something I'm passionate about, and I want to find other people who want to do this with me. It's really important to choose the things that you love, bring them to the forefront of your life, and then also at the same time, don't abandon yourself. Don't try to fit into some box. If you be yourself, the people that feel seen and heard by what you're offering will find you, and your tribe is really out there. But if we want that village, we have to create that village sometimes, and we have to really step out of our comfort zone. And that's what I keep doing.
I think that's a great reminder. I think sometimes we think of the end goal, and your point to just, hey, start small and start with your own, what you're trying to do, and meet people in person in your own community and see where it goes, is a great reminder that sometimes where you're trying to get to doesn't always start there. You got to start a little bit smaller. Just if you're passionate about it, let it come on its own. I really appreciate you joining us. I think this is a great podcast and reminder of just how to start building community, which is so important. And we're definitely going to share Carrion community through our website, through the podcast. So hopefully people can see what you're doing and try to replicate it in their own communities if that's something that they want to do.
Thank you so
again.
much for
I really
having
appreciate
me.
you taking the time.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode of Women's Wealth, The Middle Way. Make sure to subscribe to us and leave a review on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, or your favorite podcast app. Join us for new episodes every other Wednesday. See you in 2 weeks.